Welcome, my dear Dreadfuls. I'm Nyx, curator of this penny dreadful moment. And tonight, I have another story from the published collections of John Olsen, author of the Stranger Bridgerland Series. This story is from his second book, Beyond Stranger Bridgerland. You can find the Stranger Bridgerland books and his newest release, Stranger US, on Amazon. I'll leave the links in the description, as always. But for now, why don't you join me? Come and sit by the fireside. Listen to this encounter, as told by Cam, called Ridge Watchers. I grew up on a small ranch in western Wyoming. Ever since I could walk, I helped on the ranch. As a family, the outdoors were our whole life. Work and play, we were outside. I remember as a little kid sitting around the fire after a hard day's work, listening to my grandpa tell stories. He had so many great stories. He told hunting and fishing stories, but some of my favorites were his encounters with the paranormal. He talked about the time he saw a UFO when he was feeding the cows one evening during the winter. He also told a story about running into Bigfoot while he was elk hunting. Another story he often told was about his encounter with what he called the Ridge Watchers. As the story goes, he was camping in the Wild Rivers area, and just at dusk, they witnessed 3 gigantic figures at the top of the ridge looking down on his camp. Judging by the trees and other landmarks near them, they claimed they had to be at least 20 feet tall, and they were jet black in color. The older I got, the more I came to remember Grandpa's stories as tall tales. He passed away when I was 12, and I will never forget his stories, even if at the time I questioned their validity. One summer when I was 17, my 2 friends and I loaded up our horses and left to spend the week in the Wild Rivers. The Wild Rivers Range is a wilderness area in eastern Wyoming, so you can go 50 miles or more and never see another soul. It's also full of breathtaking views and beautiful lakes with great fishing. After we had traveled about 30 miles in, we decided to stop. We set up camp and hobbled the horses for the night. It was just about dusk, and my friend Tim called Ty and me over to check something out. There was a lake to the northwest of camp and a large hill to our north. He pointed up to the ridge, and there near the top was a large black mass. None of us could remember seeing anything up there when we had arrived. The south-facing slope didn't have many tall trees, just brush. Ty quickly ran to his bedroll and came back with binoculars. After looking for a minute, he handed them to me. I adjusted them to watch, and I could see the dark outline of a head, thick neck, and shoulders. I could see the figure down to about the waist, and the rest of the shadow disappeared in the brush. It was enormous. Based on deer I'd seen up on that ridge earlier and brush around it, I guess the figure was around 15 to 20 feet tall, and it was deep black against the fading light. As I was staring through the binoculars, I saw movement a short distance to the left. 2 more of these giant shadows walked up next to the one that was already there. We passed the binoculars back and forth until the light was gone. The weirdest part is that there was no detail to them. They were just an intense black. We were very anxious once the light was fully gone, and we could no longer make out the forms on the hill. We built up the fire and stayed up all night. None of us wanted to sleep, knowing something so big might be out there. The night passed with no incident. With the light of the morning, the 3 figures were gone. We rode to the top of the ridge that afternoon, but could find no sign of footprints or anything out of place. We slept all afternoon and waited anxiously for dusk, but the figures didn't return. We enjoyed the rest of the week, fishing and exploring. After returning home, I told my dad about what we had seen. He reminded me of Grandpa's story of the Ridge Watchers. After seeing the Ridge Watchers for myself, I'm rethinking my earlier skepticism. Maybe Grandpa's stories were true. Now that's the end of our moment together, my dear Dreadfuls. I hope you enjoyed this By the Fireside story. If you did, go get John Olsen's Beyond Stranger Bridgerland from Amazon for yourself. And don't forget to leave Penny Dreadful Moment a tip if you think I've done a dreadfully good job tonight. Now, I'll leave you with this little thought. Remember, my dear Dreadfuls, don't be afraid of the dark. Be terrified of what is in it. Until next time.